Good morning, March 28th, 2025. Ferrari to raise prices up to 10% to offset auto tariffs. Looks like Ferrari is ready to try and stick it to President Trump and his newly imposed auto tariffs. The automaker put out a press release late Wednesday, early Thursday, that said it would update its commercial policy based on the preliminary information currently available regarding the introduction of import tariffs on EU cars into the USA. While reaffirming its commitment to maximum client attention and protection, and with the goal to prove certainty to them, the commercial terms will remain unchanged for orders of all models imported before April 2nd, 2025, and for orders of the following three families. And it lists various cars. This is an article out of Zero Hedge by Tyler Durden, their pseudonym. This is a video following up on yesterday, really. It's a daily update, but yesterday we talked about inflation, and we talked about tariffs, and we talked about how it's going to affect us all. I got a decent amount of attention on that video and a lot of questions. So I want to go over again some of these concepts and talk about the tariff situation. It's really a keyhole, or kind of a little window into all of this. And I have realized a lot of people have a huge struggle understanding inflation, and I struggled immensely understanding inflation. And I literally read, I don't even know how many books about this stuff, and I have talked to world experts. I am not kidding. I have talked to some of the top people on the entire planet, people who worked at the Federal Reserve and managed hundreds of billions of dollars in spending in regards to things that are inflationary and controlling inflation. So right off of the bat, what is inflation? Now, this is a tricky one. Inflation has two kind of definitions or understandings. Now, some people will say one is the correct one is not. What is it? Originally, we're talking about 500 years ago, and for the longest time, inflation was described as the expansion of the money supply. This is Merriam-Webster. If you look at any older dictionaries, this is what it has always been. Now, after the Industrial Revolution and the creation of the Federal Reserve, 1913, etc., inflation was changed in definition to mean the overall increase of the price of goods and services and general price aggregate change. This is very key because it causes a lot of confusion on what inflation is. So if you want to understand inflation, there's a great story. If you go back to Africa, to Masu Musu, I believe is his name, an African king who was considered to be the richest man in the entire history of the world. I understand it, he had an approximate net worth of, they estimate, $400 billion in today's currency to $1 trillion. That's a lot. That's more than Jeff Bezos. That's more than Elon Musk. And he had a crazy thing happen is he would go to other countries to visit. And when he would visit, he would bring with him gold. And when he brought gold with him, he would spend his gold on everything. And people were ecstatic. This guy had so much wealth, he would buy up everything. And you know what would happen is that country would have massive inflation. The price of bread would go up double to 10x. The price of rugs would go up double to 10x. Everything. And they would go into a bout of hyperinflation. And his spending alone threw the country into an inflationary depression, right? They had a lot of economic trouble from it. Now, you also have, this idea of supply and demand. 2020 was a very good example of supply and demand problems. You have a lot of people completely changing their spending habits nearly overnight, and nothing was being produced. So you had the same level of demand, if not higher in many things. Toilet paper was a great example. And less supply because no one was working. That can make prices go up. Scarcity. Okay? So those are two very different things. Now, we are experiencing a lot of ways right now, both. And a lot of it is not as much inflation as you think. From 2020 when we had the supply chains nearly shut down, but there was a significant amount of the original definition of inflation. Okay, so this tariff stuff, coming back, it is going to cause initially supply problems and demand problems. Okay, so if you have everyone has a pile of money in the United States and they want to buy stuff, right? And then a tariff is tacked onto all of the stuff, right? Then you are going to have people who do not have enough currency to trade for all that stuff, right? So here's what happens. Initially, prices go up due to the tariff, which is a tax. And it will cause, in a way, a short-term burst of deflation. And that's due to not enough money. And then the money freezes up because it's not enough to spend. So the little bit you have just kind of sits there. And then people don't build stuff or sell stuff because they don't have buyers who have enough money. And so they have to stop building as much stuff, because they can't justify, the expenses of building, the labor, the material, etc. The prices of it are going up because of these tariffs anyway, the materials to build things such as cars. So initially you get that little bump down in deflation. It's a chart that goes like this, up and down, up and down, up and down. And one day someone says we have deflation, one day it says inflation, and it gets so confusing, right? All right. But what happens because of these increases in cost, you would think people will stop spending. Unfortunately, no, because we are in a consumer debt-based economy. The way we buy things in this consumption economy is not through excess capital or savings. We buy things with debt, right? And not just we as individuals, but countries as whole, governments buy things through debt and debt issuance, bonds, okay? The government writes a bond. It says, hello, citizen, company, other government, please give us money, okay? We will give the money back to you at a certain term and rate. We borrow that money, right? That borrowed money is then used to go buy more stuff. The government itself will have to go buy these goods with the tariffs on them. Where did that money come from for those bonds? Everything was so expensive. Where did it come from? Right? There wasn't enough. You have all of a sudden the pool of goods and services is all overall more expensive, but the pile of money in the world is the same. Right? Well, you would say, well, people just stop buying. There'll be less stuff made. Eventually it'll come down because, well, These companies will go out of business. There just won't be as much stuff. It's not what happens. What happens is fiat banks, right? Federal Reserve or JP Morgan, your local bank, they will print the money. They will print the money. Okay? Everyone says it's the Federal Reserve prints money. That's half true. It just gets very. Some people don't even know the Federal Reserve exists, and they don't even understand that they have this money printer everyone talks about. The banking system is the money printer. Okay, short story. Joe goes to buy a car. He wants a Ferrari in this said story. Joe does not have the money for the Ferrari. Or maybe he has it in his bank account, but if he spent it all, he wouldn't have any money left over for anything else. So when he goes into the Ferrari dealership has a lender already that works with them. That lender approves Joe. Joe is now approved for his loan. Where did the money for the loan come from? The loan money came from nothing. The loan is literally digits on a screen, an asset balance sheet of liabilities and assets. They print up the money, they give it to Joe. Joe then goes and he buys the Ferrari with brand new money that never existed before, increasing the pool of money, of currency. This now larger pool of currency, if it grows larger than the pool of overall supplies, goods, and services, this is inflation according to the original definition of what inflation is, the increase in the money supply, right? But it also has this tailwind kind of like upward spiral effect of the more currency that's created, right, also causes more demand because now everyone has more money, right? They can go spend more of it, which then doubles the effect of goods and services going up. Look, I struggled to understand this for years, and there's a lot of like mechanics to it. I'm not going even into all the details. But I am very sure this is how this works. And it's crazy, and it's meant to be confusing, right? Imagine you had a magic money printer, right? You'd have a lot of benefits from that as yourself lending out. So you don't quite want everyone to understand it very clearly. Yeah? Okay. All this new money, because look, these tariffs are going to cause prices to go up, right? And as long as banks are still comfortable with the lending, meaning your credit score hasn't, been destroyed, that somehow you manage to keep making higher wages, which if all the manufacturing is moved over here, your wages would go up, right? As an aggregate pool of workers, then you will get more lending because you will be underwritten and approved to take out new loans, right? It's a very, tricky scenario, but this is why we can expect more inflation or more increased prices in the country. I don't want to make this video too long. I think I got the general idea out. If you watched the other video from the other day, hopefully this helps clear up some of it. And this stuff it's very hard on everybody. And there are things that can be done to prepare for this type of stuff. Now, if you want to know more, let me know, and we can talk about that too. But hey, this is Justin Madison. Thanks for watching today. Have a good one.